They discovered quadruplets, and I was fretting about how to raise them. My husband sent a message, 100 million, divorce. I replied excitedly, "Oh my God, why didn't you say something this good sooner?" He was stunned and immediately called to ask why I wasn't crying or making a fuss. I laughed. He had no idea that in the 3 years we were married he gave me only 3,000 yuan a month for living expenses, while buying his one true love a 10 million mansion. He had no idea how many bitter medicinal decoctions his mother forced me to drink while we were trying to conceive. Now, with 100 million and 4 adorable babies, leaving him and his awful family behind feels like hitting the jackpot. I hung up and sent him one last message, "Money's in. I'm gone. Oh, and one more thing I forgot to tell you, I never loved you." My phone vibrated, and Jason's name leapt onto the screen. I drew a deep breath, pressed the answer key, and casually turned on the recording. His voice came through the receiver, a question laced with suppressed rage, each word squeezed out between his teeth. "Summer, what do you mean? Why aren't you crying or throwing a fit? 100 million still isn't enough for you?" I held the phone a little farther away, so his noise wouldn't contaminate my ears, and so I wouldn't startle the 4 little ones in my belly who had just settled into sleep. Outside, the afternoon sunlight filtered through the Venetian blinds, casting mottled patterns on the polished floor. Tiny motes of dust drifted in the air, and everything felt unreal. I could even hear my own steady heartbeat, thump, thump, strong and measured. "Jason, we're negotiating a transaction, not feelings." I deliberately slowed my speech, making my voice sound flat. "Please transfer the money as soon as possible, don't waste each other's time." That composure infuriated him completely. "Summer, what the hell game are you playing?" He began to swear, his voice hoarse and irritable. "Don't regret this. Without me you're nothing. You think you can find a man better than me?" I laughed, a genuine, light laugh that came from my lungs. "Regret? What I regret most is that 3 years ago I was blind and thought marrying into a wealthy family would buy me security, only to jump from one fire pit into another ice cellar." "Thanks for the reminder," I said, a faint note of sarcasm in my voice. "But I'm about to be a rich woman, does having a man still matter?" There was dead silence on the other end of the line. I could imagine how Jason's handsome face must have been contorted in disbelief. He probably expected me to beg like I had countless times before, to cry and plead for him to stay. Too bad for him, he miscalculated. Ding, a text message alert rescued that tedious standoff. "Dear Miss Summer, your account ending XXXX was credited with 100 million US dollars on X at 1735. The current account balance is 100,003,251 US dollars and 58 cents. That balance of just over 3,000 was all my savings for the past 3 years. At this moment it looked like a gigantic joke." I hung up without hesitation and blacklisted every contact of Jason's, his phone number, WeChat, social accounts, one by one. The world fell instantly silent. I immediately dialed another number I knew all too well. "Lily, Plan A is in motion." "Holy shit. Summer. He actually gave you the money?" My best friend Lily's scream nearly shattered my eardrums. 100 million, not a cent less." I walked into the bedroom and opened the suitcase I'd packed long ago. There were no expensive jewels, no designer bags, just a few loose changes of clothes, a thick prenatal report, and a picture book I had published before marriage, The Little Prince for the Lonely Planet. "Everything in this villa belongs to the Liu family, I don't want to take a single thing." I walked into the living room, my gaze sweeping over this house, as empty as a hotel model suite. Every corner was filled with cold, oppressive memories. I remembered my mother-in-law Mylan carrying that bowl of black, bitter medicine, saying in a tone of charity, "Summer, the Liu family has only one line for 4 generations, we're counting on you. This remedy is an ancestral secret recipe I had someone fetch. Drink it while it's hot, and I guarantee you'll have a son." The medicine was bitter and astringent. Once I drank it my stomach churned. I vomited several times, and she had the maid boil another bowl, watching until I finished it before she finally stopped. And my husband Jason, forever wearing that indifferent, arrogant look. My mom only wants what's best for us, just drink it. My mom only wants what's best for us. What an airy, dismissive phrase, as if it could erase all my pain and humiliation. I lowered my head and looked at the 8-carat diamond on the ring finger of my left hand. He had placed it on me himself when we married. It was meant to symbolize the status of Mrs. Liu. But this ring, like him, had no warmth. I tugged it off my finger with force, my knuckles raw and reddened. Then I walked to the huge floor-to-ceiling fish tank in the living room, raised my hand, and the diamond ring, glittering expensively under the light, cut a cold arc and sank soundlessly to the bottom. Along with my marriage, it was buried in the fish's belly. A car horn sounded downstairs. Lily had arrived. I gave one last look at this prison where I'd lived for 3 years, without a trace of reluctance. I gently stroked the slight swell of my abdomen. Within it 4 brand new lives were growing, and they were my entire hope for the future. Babies, Mommy is taking you to a new life. I turned and walked out through the heavy door without looking back. I climbed into Lily's car. She hugged me excitedly. Summer. You're finally free. Let me see, what does 100 million text look like? I handed her my phone. She stared at the long string of zeros and let out a squeal like a prairie dog. I glanced back at the villa shrinking into the night and a real smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. Jason, you thought you were getting rid of a burden. You will never know that what you personally gave up was the entire future of the Liu family, passed down through 4 generations. This game was already lost by you the moment I got the money. Jason probably thought I would hide in some corner and cry, or sink into a life of drunken oblivion once I had the money. So he unhesitatingly threw a lavish, extravagant victory banquet for his moonlight, Eva. The stated theme of the banquet was to celebrate Eva winning the Best Newcomer award at an international film festival, but everyone knew full well that this was just Jason paving the way for her and, at the same time, announcing to the world that he was about to get engaged to the newly crowned film queen. I was in first class on a flight to a coastal city when I came across this piece of news. The financial magazine's headline was striking. Liu Group CEO Jason spends a fortune on his beauty, announces upcoming engagement at victory banquet. The accompanying photo showed Jason with his arm around Eva's waist. The two of them raised their glasses intimately, grinning like they owned the world. Eva wore a bespoke evening gown, and the diamond necklace at her throat sparkled brilliantly, the same one I had seen in the auction catalog, worth $30 million. And the breakup settlement he gave me after the divorce, $100 million, sounds like a lot, but compared to the way he squandered fortunes on his white moonlight, what is it really? The irony is, during those 3 years of marriage he only gave me 3,000 yuan a month for living expenses, grandly calling it to keep you in the good habit of thrift. I looked at the photo of him, so vigorous and confident, and felt nothing. Indeed, I almost wanted to laugh. The flight attendant came over gently and covered me with a blanket. Miss Summer, the plane is about to land. Please fasten your seatbelt. The car you reserved is waiting at the airport VIP entrance. Thank you. I smiled at her and nodded. Yes, I used Jason's money to book the highest level of care for myself. The moment I stepped off the plane, I was taken straight to the most exclusive private maternity hospital in Binhai City. The place was private and discreet, the service attentive, and the attending physician was an industry authority I had hired through a headhunter at great expense, James. He was in his 30s, wore gold-rimmed glasses, looked genteel and refined, and his tone of voice always had a calming effect. Miss Summer, you and the babies are all very healthy. It's rare for quadruplets to be in such good condition. What you need to do now is relax and keep a good mood. He looked at the ultrasound images, a professional smile on his face. I lay on the soft hospital bed, feeling the warm, humid air of this unfamiliar city, my whole body loosening. At the same time, 1,000 miles away at the celebration banquet, Jason's assistant was quietly reporting to him. Jason, all of Miss Summer's social accounts have been deleted. The premarital apartment under her name was transferred yesterday. She has disappeared completely. I can picture the scornful smirk twitching at Jason's mouth when he hears that. He would surely say to Eva in his arms, "See, she's just throwing a tantrum." Took the money and ran. Women are all the same. Eva would curl up like a docile kitten, nestling against him and cooing, "Jason, let's never mention her again, okay? She only spoils our mood." Yes, to them this ex-wife of mine is nothing more than an insignificant interlude. They revel in the admiration and blessings beneath the spotlights, celebrating their hard-won love. Following Dr. James's advice, I checked straight into the top postpartum care center next to the hospital and signed a care contract for 6 months. Then, with a small portion of the money, I assembled a professional team. There was a top lawyer to handle any legal disputes that might arise with the Liu family. An experienced financial advisor took that $100 million and arranged a prudent yet efficient asset allocation, ensuring that my children and I would never want for food or clothing. With the remainder, I bought a small villa with a garden on the most beautiful coastal road in Binhai City. I hired a renowned designer and transformed it into a home full of sunlight and childlike whimsy. Everything was proceeding in an orderly fashion. I picked up my paintbrush again, a skill that had been almost abandoned since I got married. I registered a new social account called Life of the Mom of Four and began serializing a warm comic about a single mother and her 4 little ones. I didn't play the victim, I simply recorded the bits and pieces of pregnancy, those subtle joys and anticipations. The warm, healing art style quickly drew the first group of followers. They left comments under the post, "The artist painted such warmth. So jealous, quadruplets, no less. Single mom, you've got to keep going." When Lily came to see me and watched the numbers in my investment account ticking up every day, she was jaw-droppingly astonished. "Summer, you are an absolute business genius. If Jason knew you used his money to pull off so much, would he be furious enough to spit blood?" I rubbed my ever-growing belly, feeling the occasional movements of 4 little lives within, and a profound calm and strength washed over me. "He won't know," I said lightly. "In his eyes, I'm just a stupid woman who takes the money and leaves. The more he looks down on me, the more my future retaliation will catch him off guard." Late at night I stand on the villa's terrace, watching the tiny fishing lights on the horizon. The sea breeze plays through my long hair, carrying a salty tang. I no longer have to watch anyone's face, no longer have to drink those bitter medicinal soups, no longer have to face a husband who will never come home. This freedom makes me feel richer than that 100 million ever could. Jason, Eva, your celebration dinner was nothing more than a trivial background note in the overture of my rebirth. Eva's dream of marrying into the Liu family didn't go as smoothly as she imagined. Life as a wealthy socialite is far more than swiping cards and attending parties. She quickly learned the fierceness of my mother-in-law, no, it should now be former mother-in-law, Mylan. That day, Eva had just maxed out the supplementary card Jason gave her. She came home carrying 7 or 8 Hermes bags and bumped straight into Mylan, who had just come back from a spa. Mylan glanced at the orange boxes. There wasn't a trace of approval in her eyes, only scrutiny and criticism. "Miss Eva, the Liu family doesn't keep idlers. What's the point of only knowing how to spend? The most important thing for a woman is still to bear a son." She said it with that sarcastic edge, exactly the same tone I heard when I first entered this house. Eva's smile froze on her face. She had assumed Jason's favoritism would let her walk all over the Liu family, forgetting who the real lady of this house was. At the dinner table the atmosphere grew even more peculiar. Mylan had the housekeeper bring out a bowl of blackish medicinal broth, indistinguishable from the one I'd had before. "Eva, this is the ancestral secret recipe I specifically procured for you. It's good for your body and makes it easier to conceive." Mylan smiled with a look of benign affection, as if that bowl were some ambrosia. Eva stared at the steaming, oddly scented medicine, her stomach churning. Her face changed on the spot. She looked at Jason with injured eyes, hoping he would come to her rescue. Jason paused mid-reach for a dish, a flash of impatience crossing his face. He put down his chopsticks and soothed, "Mom only wants what's best for us. Just drink it." Those words again. The exact same words, he said them to me 3 years ago too. Eva couldn't hold it together on the spot, tears welled up in her eyes. Jason, didn't you say your mother is very open-minded? Was she like this with Summer before? If she hadn't mentioned me it would have been fine. The moment she brought me up, Jason's expression darkened instantly. Involuntarily, images from those past years flashed through his mind, me silently picking up the medicine bowl and obediently drinking it all in one go. Never a complaint, and never anyone making him feel embarrassed in public like Eva did. A strange irritability welled up in his chest. For the first time, he thought Eva's tears were somewhat blinding. Enough, stop making a scene. He ended the topic with a harsh tone. That night, Eva and he had a huge fight in the bedroom. The next day, Mylan summoned Jason to the study and began to scold Eva. Jason, it's not that I'm saying this about you, but this Eva, besides that pretty face, she's practically good for nothing. Look at how dainty and fragile she is, like a breeze could topple her. With such a weak constitution, how could she possibly bear our Lou family's grandson? Besides, she spends money like crazy. This month she's already blown almost 10 million of your cash, hasn't she? Who's as low maintenance and sturdy as Summer for raising a child? The phrase "good at raising" pierced Jason like a needle, driving deep into his heart. For the first time, he began to miss my goodness. That forever quiet, forever compliant, forever will never cause him trouble Summer. Since then, Jason began working late more often, preferring to sleep in the company's break room rather than go home and face his mother's arguments with Eva. When the night grew deep and quiet, he would, as if compelled by some ghostly force, type Summer's name into a search engine. But the internet was empty, every trace of me seemed to have been wiped away by an invisible hand. It was as if I had never existed in his world. That feeling filled him with an unprecedented sense of loss of control and agitation. Irritated, he flung his phone onto the desk and dialed his assistant's extension. Find her. Where is Summer? Use every connection, get her for me. There was an urgency in his voice he didn't even realize he had. A few hours later, the assistant returned the call trembling. Jason. Miss Summer cleaned up every trace before she left. We can't find her. It's like she evaporated from the face of the earth. Trash. Jason shouted as he hung up the phone, punching the expensive rosewood desk. He didn't know why he was so angry. He was the one who had initiated the divorce, he had been the one to give her money to make her leave. So why, when she truly vanished without a trace, did his heart feel so unsettled? It was as if something extremely important had been lost by his own hands. And at this moment I was leisurely lying in the garden of my little villa, basking in the sun while live-streaming my drawings for my comic fans. My belly was already large, I wore a loose maternity dress, a satisfied smile on my face. The comment section was peaceful. The madam looks so happy. The little ones must be adorable. Looking forward to the arrival of the little life. I looked at those warm messages, felt the interactions of the 4 little ones in my belly, and my heart was filled with an unprecedented calm and joy. Jason, keep getting more and more agitated. Your suffering has only just begun. Summer in Benhai City always comes with humid, hot sea breezes and the occasional thunder shower. On just such an ordinary afternoon, 4 brand new suns rose in my world. The delivery went more smoothly than I had imagined. Maybe it was because I had been in good spirits and well-nourished these past months, or perhaps Dr. James and his top team were simply that professional. When the 4 wrinkled, rosy little ones were handed to me one by the nurses, tears streamed down my face. Not from pain or grievance, but pure, overflowing joy. 2 boys and 2 girls, a perfect pair of dragons and phoenixes, and doubled besides. This was the beginning of my new life, it was everything in the world I would know from then on. Lily stood beside us, so excited she was laughing and crying, holding her phone and wildly snapping photos of the babies. Oh my God, Summer. You are literally the luckiest person alive. This is amazing. She painstakingly selected 9 pictures, 4 babies lying side by side in the crib, one of me holding one of them with a face full of maternal glow, and another of the 4 tiny footprints. She excitedly captioned them, "Congratulations to my most badass bestie on acquiring 4 human infants." The single rich woman's peak of life officially begins. Then she hit send and shared them to her feed. She blocked everyone who might be connected to the Liu family, but she overlooked one potential crisis. A mutual friend who was on good terms with both of us, but wasn't aware of the details of my divorce, saw that post. She was stunned by the spectacular scene, and, amazed, she took a screenshot and sent it to a wealthy wives group she belonged to. "Sisters, look who just had quadruplets. Incredible. What kind of divine genes are those?" Very unfortunately, Eva was in that group. She was at the time showing off to a few fake friends the new limited edition watch Jason had just bought her. The photo that suddenly popped up on her phone screen froze the smile on her face instantly. She recognized at a glance the woman in the picture, a little haggard but with her eyes and brows full of happiness. It was me. The background of the photo was a VIP ward in a hospital. On the baby cot beside me, 4 tiny swaddled infants lay neatly in a row. Quadruplets. Eva's heart felt as if an invisible hand had clenched it tightly, leaving her barely able to breathe. Her hand holding the phone was trembling. At that moment, Jason was in the study, on a multinational video conference with directors from the overseas branch. Eva didn't think twice, she pushed the door open and barged in. "Jason, look. Look at this." She thrust her phone toward him, her voice sharp and panicked. Jason, interrupted at a crucial moment, wore an expression of displeasure. "What's all the fuss about?" He glared at the phone screen with impatience. With just one glance, it was as if all the blood in his body froze at once. On the screen was my smiling face as I held a newborn. That smile was so real, so blindingly bright, a radiance he had never seen on my face. Beside me were 4 tiny cribs. Quadruplets. His pupils contracted violently, his breath catching as if it had stopped. With a bang, he sprang up from his chair, the huge movement overturning the cup on the table and soaking the documents. He couldn't care about that at all, nor the stunned faces of the directors on the video call. He shouted at the screen on the other end, "Pause the meeting." Then he snatched Eva's phone, his fingers trembling as he zoomed in on the photo, and zoomed in again. In the corner of the picture was a timestamp showing it was taken yesterday. There was also faint location info, Binhai City First Hospital. Binhai City, she had hidden there. And she'd given birth to his children. 4 of them. Jason's mind went buzz and went blank. His hand trembled as he dialed the number I had long since buried in his blacklist, my number. From the receiver came a cold automated message, "The number you have dialed is not in service." Like a madman he hurled his phone against the wall, then grabbed the landline and, with all his strength, screamed hoarsely, "Check for me. Binhai City First Hospital. Summer. Now. Immediately." His eyes were bloodshot, like a trapped beast utterly enraged. He finally understood that my words, "I never loved you," were not an empty threat. I finally understood what the grand gift I mentioned when I left actually was. What I took away was not a child. It was that I, with his money, silently gave him 4 heirs, and then didn't even allow him the chance to look at them. This was the ultimate expression of his supreme desire to control, its deadliest, most cruel trampling. Eva stared at his manic appearance in a daze, and for the first time felt a chill deep in her heart. She knew that the rift between her and Jason, the one called Summer, had become an insurmountable chasm. Jason flew almost overnight on a charter to Binhai City. He moved like a whirlwind, notifying no one except his mother, Mylan. When Mylan heard 4 golden grandsons over the phone, her heart nearly gave out on the spot. One moment she was boasting to her card-playing friends about her daughter-in-law being the newly crowned best actress, the next she was wailing and clawing at the air, crying "My grandsons," abandoning all dignity as she too rushed toward the airport. The mother and son, one like a crazed lion, the other like a hen that had lost its soul, descended upon the tranquil seaside town with murderous intent. At the hospital, they easily pulled up my delivery records. Plain as black on white, crystal clear. Mother, Summer. Newborns, 4, 2 boys and 2 girls, healthy. Jason looked at those 4 lives that had just been given names and felt his mind go blank, his heart soaked in lemon water, both sour and bitter. None of those 4 names had anything to do with him. Where is Miss Summer? Where is she? He grabbed a nurse's arm, his strength terrifying. The nurse was startled by him and struggled, saying, "Miss Summer was discharged a long time ago. She's a VIP client here, her whereabouts are unclear to us and it's not convenient to disclose." Not convenient to disclose? Mylan's scream echoed through the whole floor. She stole our Liu family's embryos. Your hospital is helping her hide them? I'm telling you, if I don't get my 4 golden grandchildren back today, I will tear this hospital down. As she spoke, she truly behaved like a shrew. She plopped down on the hospital's polished marble floor, began to throw a tantrum, rolling and beating her thighs as she wailed. Where is justice? The grandson I waited for with so much hardship has been stolen by that she-fox. She's a fraud. She took 100 million from our family and stole my precious. People quickly gathered around to gawk, phones raised, cameras snapping wildly at her. A wealthy mother-in-law searching the hospital for her grandchild, a billion-yuan breakup settlement. Such explosive topics quickly fermented online and soon shot to the trending list. Jason watched his mother in that abhorrent spectacle, feeling his face burn with shame. He was so furious his face turned ashen. Gritting his teeth, he forcibly dragged Mylan, who was still kicking and screaming on the ground, up. "Mom. Aren't you ashamed enough already?" The PR department at Liu Corporation was practically being hammered by phone calls, scrambling to manage this sudden public relations crisis. And the creator of the crisis, me, was right now lying comfortably in the nursery on the 2nd floor of my family villa. The room was cozy and cute, 4 little cribs lined up side by side. I was holding one of the babies, awkwardly and tenderly feeding her. On the TV, they were running the clip of Mylan causing a scene at the hospital on loop. Seeing her face twisted with anger and agitation, a mocking smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. This is just the beginning. James happened to be here for the routine checkup for me and the babies. When he saw the news, his handsome brow tightened slightly. They were going to find this place sooner or later. "Are you ready?" he asked softly as he deftly examined the babies. I gently put the well-fed, yawning baby back into the crib, looked up at him, and smiled faintly. I've been waiting for them a long time. There was no panic in my smile, only the confident calm of someone orchestrating every move. As expected, Jason mobilized every contact and connection he had and began a citywide search for my whereabouts. Before long, the entire high society of Binhai City knew. The Liu family's CEO from the capital was going mad, searching desperately for his ex-wife and their 4 newborn children. He was like a beast trapped in a cage, furious, violent, and yet powerless. For the first time he tasted the frustration of holding billions in wealth yet not even being able to see his own children. This feeling made him more miserable than the company losing billions. He began to lie awake night after night, replaying the photo of me holding the child over and over in his mind. My smile, like the sharpest blade, was slowly, deliberately flaying his heart. He regretted it. He regretted it down to his guts turning green. But he didn't know that from the very beginning, the initiative in this cat-and-mouse game had been firmly in my hands. Jason found my villa address sooner than I had anticipated. It seems the power of money and influence really should not be underestimated. That afternoon the sun was just right. I was bathing the babies with the maternity nurse. Outside, a convoy of black Bentleys rolled up to my villa, grand and overwhelming, shattering the quiet. I knew he had come. Jason stepped down from the lead car. He wore a well-tailored black suit and his hair was neatly combed. He adjusted his tie, as if by that gesture he could reclaim the pitiable remnant of CEO authority he still had. He brought 4 black-clad bodyguards and, all swagger and menace, slammed the doorbell. The door opened. Waiting for him was not my tear-streaked face, nor the nanny's panicked expression. It was a man in a bespoke suit, wearing gold-rimmed glasses, who somehow looked even more like an elite than he did. This was the ace lawyer I had flown in at great expense from the country's best firm, Attorney David. A professional smile on his face, David handed over a document with polite courtesy. "Good afternoon, Mr. Jason. Miss Summer asked me to deliver these to you. One is the receipt for a restraining order application, and the other is a legally binding personal statement." Jason didn't even look at the documents, he swept them aside with one hand, scattering paper across the floor. His eyes were bloodshot as he stared fixedly into the room, his voice hoarse as he roared, "Let Summer out. That's my child. What gives her the right to keep me from seeing her?" His voice was so loud that the birds in the garden flapped their wings and flew away in alarm. I cradled one of the babies, just bathed and wrapped in a soft towel, and slowly stepped in front of the floor-to-ceiling window on the second floor. Sunlight fell on me, forming a gentle halo. From above I looked down at the man below, raving and desperate, the man who had once been my husband. His face was written with unwillingness, anger, and a remorse so deep he himself had not yet recognized it. I saw him. He saw me too. Our eyes met across a distance of over 10 meters, the air seemed to freeze. I formed a mouthful of words toward him, slow and clear, "Get out." His body convulsed as if that single word had stabbed straight into his heart. He trembled with anger, pointing at me but unable to utter a single word. The bodyguards behind him took the cue and tried to force their way in. 2 professional bodyguards stepped forward behind Lawyer David and blocked the doorway. The atmosphere instantly became tense. "Mr. Jason," Lawyer David's voice remained calm but carried an unmistakable authority, "this is Miss Summer's private residence. If you take another step forward, we will call the police for unlawful entry. I'm sure you wouldn't want tomorrow's headlines to be more sensational than your mother's, would you?" Jason's sanity teetered on the brink of collapse. He looked at the small, soft baby cradled in my arms, so tiny, pink and delicate, with features that faintly echoed his own. A strange feeling called paternal love, laced with overwhelming remorse and unwillingness, flooded him in an instant. He wanted to rush forward, to take that child in his arms, to tell the whole world that this was his flesh and blood. But he couldn't. That door, those bodyguards, that lawyer whose calm was terrifying, and the woman upstairs with the ice-cold look formed a barrier he could not cross. He, the CEO of the Luke Corporation, the favored son of heaven, experienced for the first time what it meant to want and not get. In the end he could only turn away in disgrace, full of rage and defeat. Sitting back in the car, he slammed his fist against the window, the back of his hand immediately streamed blood. But he vowed he would never give up just like that. I watched his convoy vanish at the end of the road before I pulled my gaze away. The baby in my arms seemed to sense my mood and shifted uneasily. I bent down, kissed her smooth forehead, and whispered, "Don't be afraid, Mommy's here." "Jason, did you think this was our first clash?" "No, this is only my unilateral dimensionality reduction strike against you. You, who once hovered above as the controller, have been reduced to a passive, battered prisoner. And I am the one who makes the rules of the game." After I shut the door on him, Jason quickly moved to step 2, legal action. He assembled the capital's top legal team and, in the name of father, formally sued in court to reclaim custody of the 4 children. At the same time, a flood of smear pieces began to appear online. They said I was deeply scheming, using the children to force my way into power. They said I was insatiable, taking 100 million and still wanting to trade on my children's status. More viciously, they hinted that I had cheated during the marriage, that the children's parentage was questionable, and demanded paternity tests. In an instant, the public narrative shifted. I went from a pitted, abandoned wife of a wealthy household to a calculating, opportunistic gold digger. Lily was so angry she swore over the phone, "Jason is such a scumbag. Shameless. How dare he say that about you? Summer, we can't just let this go." Of course I wasn't going to let it go. Jason thought he could control public opinion with money, but he forgot that I'm wealthy too. And besides, the cards I held were far more than his. I had my PR team spring into action immediately. First, my lawyer released a public statement and attached a screenshot of that 100 million bank transfer record. The statement made it clear, Ms. Summer and Mr. Jason had long agreed to a divorce and received the corresponding financial settlement. The two parties have no further ties. Miss Summer's separation was legal, not obsessive. A sum of 100 million instantly shut the mouths of those who called me insatiable. For the second step, my comic account that's always presented in a serene, years of quiet goodness style, the daily life of a mother of four treasures, updated with an unprecedented long illustrated post. I spent 2 full days and nights drawing that comic. The art style remained warm and comforting, but the content hit like a knife with every line. The comic opens with a girl's rosy daydreams about marriage. Then the scene shifts to a woman, day after day, holding bowl after bowl of pitch-black medicinal broth and drinking them expressionlessly. Small words beside her read, "To become a proper wife." The next panel was a screenshot of the woman's mobile banking app, showing the fixed monthly deposit of $3,000, and her forlorn look as she stared at a pretty maternity dress in a shop window. The small caption beside it read, "He said this was to keep me frugal." Then there was a screenshot of a news report, her husband spending lavishly to buy a multi-million-dollar mansion for another woman. In the comic, the woman sits alone in the cold villa, eating instant noodles. The final panel shows the woman dragging a suitcase as she leaves, the background a text message she received, 100 million breakup settlement. She strokes her belly and for the first time a smile appears on her face. The closing line reads, "Thank you, you've finally given me the money to raise my 4 babies." I didn't name names, but every detail felt like a precise scalpel, cutting open the rod at the heart of my marriage to Jason. This comic was like a deep-sea bomb, detonating instantly across the internet. 100 million breakup settlement versus 3,000 in living expenses, the self-awakening of a wealthy family's childbearing tool, the greatest ex-wife counterattack in history. Topic after topic shot up to the trending list, the buzz even eclipsed the Olympics. Netizens turned into detectives, matching details from my comic to past news, and before long unearthed all sorts of stories about Jason and Eva. Public opinion turned completely around. Jason's Instagram comments were overrun, hundreds of thousands of messages, all calling him a scumbag, a henchman, a modern chin shimmy. Eva was even more mercilessly torn apart, the labels mistress and gold digger were stuck to her like glue. It was said she was recognized on the street and pelted with eggs and rotten vegetables. The Lou Corporation's stock price plunged in response, wiping out nearly $10 billion in 3 days. The old man on the board couldn't sit still, they all pressured Jason, demanding he sort out his family affairs immediately and not damage the company's reputation. Jason was in a mess, utterly abandoned by everyone. For the first time he discovered that money and power were not omnipotent. He never expected that the woman who had once seemed as meek as a cat in his eyes would strike back so fiercely, each move lethal. And I, in this battle of public opinion, completely turned the tide. My comic account's followers soared into the tens of millions, the daily life of the 4-treasure mom became a cultural phenomenon. Invitations to collaborate from major maternal and baby brands, publishing houses, and film companies flew in like snowflakes. I leapt from a full-time wife discarded by a wealthy family to an independent woman whose value had multiplied and who carried her own traffic. I sat in my villa, watching the steady stream of partnership offers popping up on my phone, feeling calm. With the money you gave me, I hired the best team and fought the most beautiful comeback. Jason, does this feel good? The crushing defeat in the court of public opinion and the pressure from the company had left Eva completely unnerved. The favor from Jason she had relied on for survival was collapsing before her very eyes. To salvage her position, she made an unimaginably foolish decision. Driven to desperation, she came to negotiate with me. She must have shaken off the bodyguards Jason had sent to protect her, and came alone to my villa. That day, I was in the garden with the 4 babies, letting them bask in the sun. They lay in a custom 4-seater pram, cooing and waving their little hands. Eva was dressed in a Chanel suit and wore enormous sunglasses, looking domineering, but the slight tremor at her fingertips betrayed her nervousness. She stopped in front of me, took off her sunglasses, and revealed a pair of eyes rimmed with red veins. "Summer, we need to talk." I didn't even lift an eyelid, kept playing with my child. There's nothing for us to talk about. My indifference clearly enraged her. She pulled a check from her bag and, like a villainess in a soap opera, slapped it onto the stone table beside us with a sharp smack. Here's 50 million. Leave Benhai City and never show your face again. As for the child. She paused, a gleam of greed and cruelty flashing in her eyes. Give the child, hand over one, consider it your final contribution to the Liu family. I finally looked up, regarding her as if she were the punchline of the biggest joke. 50 million? Eva, have you forgotten I have 100 million in my hands? Do you think I need your 50 million? You. Her face flushed the color of pig's liver in an instant. Don't get smug. Do you think you've won? Jason loves me. You're nothing but a tool for making babies. He's nice to you now only because of those 4 little bastards. The word bastards wiped the smile off my face at once. I rose slowly, my gaze turning cold. Eva, you can eat recklessly, but you can't speak recklessly. My children are precious. Not like some people who can't even have children if they wanted to. That sentence hit Eva's sore spot exactly. She'd been with Jason so long and there had been no sign of a pregnancy, a fact Mylan looked down on her for more than anything. She was completely furious with me, lost her reason, and lunged at me screaming. Summer, I'll kill you. I'll take your baby. Her target was the stroller behind me. My heart jolted and I instinctively stepped aside to shield it. She missed, and because she was wearing high heels, her footing slipped. Her balance went and she was about to fall face first onto the hard gravel path. At that critical moment, a dark figure shot in like a bolt of lightning from the villa doorway. It was Jason. He probably couldn't bear to leave Eva, so he chased after her. He took a single stride forward, and just as I thought he would go to help his beloved White Moon, he did something that shocked everyone. He stepped over the fallen Eva and wrapped me tightly in his arms, using his back to shield me from myself and any stones that might fly up. Time seemed to stand still in that moment. Eva fell to the ground in a mess, her palms and knees scraped raw. She stared at the scene before her in disbelief, her voice trembling with shock. Jason, you're protecting her? Jason was stunned too. In his arms was the familiar, long-missed scent I knew so well, mixed with the faint milk smell of a baby. So soft, so real. His heartbeat skipped. In that instant, his mind held no calculations about profit or pride, only the most primal instinct to protect me. I snapped back to myself, feeling a wave of nausea. I shoved him hard, smoothed the clothes he'd mussed, and looked at him with icy eyes as if he were something filthy. Then I turned to Eva, who was sobbing on the floor, and said coldly, "The farce is over. Please go." My bodyguard, who had already come running at the sound, made a pleased gesture toward Eva. Jason looked at the cold, resolute look in my eyes and felt as if something had been driven hard into his chest, a sharp, piercing pain. He wanted to explain, wanted to say something, but my gaze did not linger on him for even a second. He watched Eva being escorted out of the garden, then glanced at the indifferent profile of my face, and for the first time felt a bone-deep helplessness. His instinctive act of protection had not moved me in the slightest. Instead it exposed the wavering and remorse inside him. And that wavering was a fatal blow to his relationship with Eva. To me, however, it was just another thrilling high point in this grand revenge spectacle. Your regret comes too late, Jason. To me, it's worthless. The custody trial officially began. The team of lawyers Jason hired strode in with fierce momentum, vowing to win a spectacular comeback. Too bad for them, they were facing someone like me, who had been prepared all along. In court, Jason's lawyer spoke eloquently, casting him as a pitiable father desperate for his child but thwarted by his ex-wife, and insisted he could provide the child with the most privileged material life. When it was our lawyer's turn, he didn't deliver a long speech, he calmly presented the evidence, item by item. The first piece was an audio recording. In it Mylan's voice was sharp and cutting. "Summer, you must take this medicine, otherwise how will you give the Liu family an heir?" When the recording played, the gallery erupted. The image of a daughter-in-law treated like a reproductive tool leapt off the tape. The second piece of evidence was my bank statements for the 3 years after our marriage. Apart from the $3,000 Jason sent each month for living expenses, there were no other large deposits into my account. In stark contrast were Jason's spending records showing he bought a car, a house, and jewelry for Eva. The economic blockade within the marriage and the emotional abuse were proven beyond doubt. The third piece was Dr. James testifying in court as our expert witness. From medical and psychological perspectives, he professionally demonstrated that a mother who is economically independent, mentally stable, and wholeheartedly loves her child can provide a far healthier environment for a child's upbringing than a so-called intact family that has money but is full of arguments and coldness. Jason's legal team was routed by us, beaten back at every turn, with no power to fight back. In the end, the judge declared in court, custody of the 4 children would be entirely mine. Jason would be allowed 1 scheduled visit per month only with my permission. At the moment of the verdict, I saw Jason's body wobble. He seemed to be drained of every ounce of strength and slumped listlessly into his chair. He had lost. Lost utterly and completely. Leaving the courthouse, he was bereft, his gaze vacant. When Mylan saw me being escorted out by bodyguards with the child in my arms, she completely lost her mind. Like a maddened lioness, she broke through the reporter's blockade and howled as she lunged to snatch the child from my arms. "My grandson! Give me back my grandson!" The reporter's flashbulbs popped frantically, capturing this latest ugly scene of a fallen wealthy family in sharp detail. As for me, under the protection of the bodyguards, I couldn't be bothered to spare her even a glance. I simply climbed into my nanny van. Soon after, the latest issue of Vogue Women was published. The cover story was me. The headline read, "From Forsaken Socialite to Billionaire Hot Mom, Summer's Declaration of Independence." In the photo, I wore a simple, sharp white suit, cradling 4 adorable babies all dressed in matching onesies. Behind me were my seaside villa and a blooming garden. On my face was a genuine, confident, dazzling smile. The magazine's feature set the entire internet ablaze. My story inspired countless women struggling within their marriages. My comic IP was bought for a sky-high sum by the country's largest film company and is being adapted into the year's major drama. I founded my own private studio, signed more talented young illustrators, and devoted myself to creating more outstanding works focusing on women. I also established a charity foundation called Xiao Guang in the names of my 4 children, dedicated to helping single mothers who need legal aid and psychological support. My life truly began to shine the moment I left the Liu family. Jason's world, however, had already become an endless gray. I won this war completely. I thought winning the lawsuit would be the end of my revenge. But Lily reminded me, "Summer, you can't go soft with someone like Jason. If you let him off today, he could come back tomorrow. Mercy to an enemy is cruelty to yourself." She was right. As long as Jason still held the power and wealth of the Liu Corporation, he would always be a latent threat to me and the children. I had to strike at the root. I didn't stop there. Although I'd been a stay-at-home wife these past 3 years, I was never a housekeeper. I had, intentionally or not, leafed through those seemingly trivial documents from Jason's study, the occasional business plans he brought home. I studied fine arts, but I possess a natural sensitivity to numbers and logic. I compiled, one by one, the evidence that he had used his position within the company during his marriage to embezzle funds for Eva to buy mansions, jewelry, and luxury goods. I made detailed records and backups of every transaction and every irregular operation. These items were the last route I left myself to avoid being thrown out by him. I never expected they would become the deadliest weapon to destroy him. I packaged this thick stack of evidence anonymously. One set was sent to the largest shareholders of the Liu Corporation, and another was delivered directly to the tip line of the tax authorities and the Economic Crime Investigation Unit. The bomb I had buried long ago had finally reached the moment to be detonated. The board of Liu Corporation was already extremely displeased with Jason because of the plunging stock price and the public relations crisis. This piece of black material falling from the sky became the last straw to break the camel's back. An internal investigation targeting Jason was swiftly launched. At the same time, the tax authorities and the Economic Crime Unit formed special task forces. Embezzlement, misappropriation of public funds, tax evasion, each charge was enough to damn him forever. Jason was suspended from all positions within the group and expelled from the business empire he had built with his own hands. His assets were frozen, the so-called friends who had once circled him scattered like birds and beasts. And his white moonlight Eva proved to be frighteningly practical. After learning that his fate was sealed, she packed up overnight and took the last little cash from his private account, bought the earliest flight abroad, and vanished without a trace. Truly, both person and fortune gone. Jason, rejected by everyone. In just 1 month he had fallen from a heavenly favorite on cloud 9 to a prisoner everyone wanted to pummel. He was banned from leaving the country and subjected to daily interrogations and summons. One day he made an appointment with my lawyer, saying he wanted to see me. I refused. He could only pass a message to me through the lawyer. He said, "I finally understand. That line of yours, 'I never loved you,' was true." He said that it was only now that he remembered that when we got married I had once joked and asked him how much alimony he would give me if we ever divorced. How did he answer back then? He seemed to have scoffed and said, "In this life, you will never have the chance to leave me." It turned out that from that moment on, I had already begun preparing to leave him. This belated realization hurt and despaired him more than the loss of wealth and status. I heard the lawyer relay those words while I was telling my 4 little ones a bedtime story. The story was called The Little Prince's New World. I watched the image on the financial news of him stumbling out of the Economic Crime Investigation Unit, hemmed in by reporters, his hair streaked with gray, his shoulders bent, his eyes full of the pallor of death. I calmly turned off the television. "Jason, you're wrong. I wasn't plotting against you from the start. It was your indifference, your mother's cruelty, your family's overall coldness that, little by little, erased my last illusions about marriage. It was you who, with your own hands, forced me from an expectant wife into a calm, decisive avenger. The collapse of this business empire was not my mortal blow. It is the price you pay for your arrogance and selfishness." A year later it was the quadruplets' first birthday celebration. I didn't make a big production of it, just held a cozy garden party at my seaside villa, inviting Lily, James, and some friends who had helped me over the past year. The children were already toddling unsteadily, babbling vague mama sounds. They were my pride and my whole happiness. Halfway through the party, the butler hurried over and whispered a few words in my ear. "Miss Summer, there's a gentleman at the door, he says he's Mr. Jason. He wants to see you." I froze for a moment. The name Jason hadn't appeared in my life for a very long time. James noticed my unease and walked over, asking softly, "What's wrong?" "He's here," I said lightly. James's brow creased. "Do you want me to have security ask him to leave?" I was silent for a moment, then shook my head. I went to the villa door, and through the ornate iron gate, I saw him. He had lost a lot of weight and aged considerably. The once crisp suit had been replaced by a jacket washed pale, streaks of silver threaded through his hair, his whole appearance haggard and ruined. He was no longer the lofty CEO of the Liu family, but an ordinary, even somewhat down and out, middle-aged man. When he saw me, a flash of panic and awkwardness crossed his eyes. He instinctively tried to smooth his collar, only to realize it was just a cheap jacket. He didn't mention barging in anymore, nor did he bring up the child, he just stood in the doorway, looking at me with a humble, abject gaze. I'm not here to ask you to get back together." His voice was hoarse, pleading. I just want to see the child from afar. Just one look, is that okay?" His posture had sunk into the dust. I looked at him, in my heart there was neither hatred nor love, only a calm, hollow void. I thought for a moment, then turned to the maternity nurse beside me and said, "Bring a sleeping baby over." The nurse quickly came out holding a baby wrapped in a small blanket. I had her stand 5 meters from the iron gate, turned to the side so Jason could see the child's sleeping face. He stared greedily at that small, sleeping face, at the soft down on the child's cheeks and the slightly puckered little mouth. As he watched, the man who had once been untouchable began to cry, the tears falling with no warning. He covered his mouth, his shoulders trembling violently, emitting suppressed, beast-like whimpers. "Sorry. I'm sorry," he murmured, not knowing whether he was speaking to the child, to me, or to himself. He watched for about a minute, then faced the maternity nurse and bowed deeply. Then he turned to me and bowed deeply once more. "Thank you, for taking such good care of him." I didn't respond. I just looked at him calmly, as if staring at a stranger who had nothing to do with me. He glanced at me one last time. That look held too many tangled emotions: regret, pain, reluctance, despair. Then he turned, took heavy steps, and left in lonesome silence. His figure in the afterglow of the setting sun looked so stooped and forlorn. James had come up beside me without my noticing. He said nothing, he simply reached out, gently draped an arm over my shoulders, offering a silent comfort. "It's all over now," he said. I nodded, turned to look at him, and at last a relaxed smile appeared on my face. Yes, it was all over. This long-drawn war finally came to an end with his humble confession and his lonely retreat. I gave him one last look at the child, not because I had forgiven him. But as a victor, I granted him a final scrap of dignity. Let him see with his own eyes what he had lost. For him, that might be a harsher judgment than any punishment. Time is the best healer. After bidding farewell to the past, my life finally entered a true spring. My comic adaptation became a smash hit back then. Not only did it win awards at home until we were buried in trophies, it was translated into multiple languages and exploded in popularity abroad. My studio signed wave after wave of talented illustrators, and together we created more works focused on women's growth and the empowerment of women, building our own brand and reputation within the industry. The Summer Light Fund I established, run by a professional team, has successfully helped thousands of single mothers who were once as trapped as I was, restoring their hope for life. I am no longer Jason's ex-wife, nor am I merely the mother of 4 treasures. I have my own name, Summer. A name that is independent, strong, and shining. The 4 little ones also grew up healthy and happy day by day. They were full of energy, turning the house upside down every day, but their laughter was the most beautiful music I had ever heard. They all gave me the same nickname without consulting each other, Queen Mama. They gradually accepted James too, the man who had quietly watched over us all along. They would call him Dad G in their baby voices. On a sunny afternoon, James took me to the garden at our house that was full of blooming flowers. He went down on one knee, holding a ring in his hand. The ring's design was unusual, not a massive diamond like a pigeon egg, but a setting where 4 small clovers clustered around a warm, lustrous pearl. "These 4 clovers represent our 4 babies," James said, his voice gentle and steady. "And this pearl is you. Summer, you brought them into this world, and you are the one who lights up my world. Will you marry me?" 4 little ones appeared from who knew where, clustered around us clapping their tiny hands and jeering, "Marry him! Marry him! Queen Mama, marry him!" I smiled, though my eyes were wet. I reached out my hand and let him put that ring on me. This time, the ring was for myself, for love. It was warm and right, as if it had been meant to rest on my finger from the start. Later, there were rumors that someone had seen Jason in a remote small city down south. He was doing manual labor on a construction site, earning a meager wage every day, living in the most primitive worker's shack, scraping by. As for Mylan, after the Liu family completely fell from grace, she couldn't bear the shock, her mind broke, and she was sent to a sanatorium, spending her days raving and crying out, "My golden grandson." When this news reached my ears, I was preparing for my new book launch. At the launch, a reporter asked sharply, "Miss Summer, how do you view your past? Especially that man, the ex-husband who gave you your first pot of gold?" The entire hall fell silent in an instant, every camera was aimed at me. I held the microphone, smiled calmly at the lens. "Thank you for that 100 million, it was my ticket into a new world. I'm grateful that with that pass I created a brand new, better world for myself. As for the person who bought the ticket, I paused, the smile at the corner of my mouth deepening. To me he was nothing more than a generous passerby. In my world, there has long been no place for him. From the audience came thunderous applause. I looked toward the front row. James sat there with the 4 little ones, his gaze on me soft and full of warmth. Sunlight poured in through the floor-to-ceiling windows, warm and bright. I knew, this was the happiness I wanted. A kingdom of joy I had built with my own hands, one no one could ever take from me.